Hello, and thanks for joining us. As you're probably well aware, the dental industry these days has seen a proliferation of group practices and DSOs, or dental service organizations. Many of these group practices are popping up in all states. Some of them are growing very quickly, and others are getting ready for sale or to be sold. While we at Tusk represent a number of these group practices as they're going through the marketed sale process, we often get asked by their founder, owner, operators, what's the best deal? And specifically, the best deal structure. Selling your DSO is a complicated endeavor, and it can take on many shapes and forms. We're going to unpack several of those in this webinar and hopefully give you better clarity around some of the parameters of what deal structure looks like. I'll start by giving you a quick overview of exactly who we are and what we do so you'll understand a bit more about our background. That's me in the middle. I'm Perrin Desports, and those are my two partners, Diwakar Sinha and Kevin Cumbus. Kevin got his start in investment banking with Wachovia Securities. After business school, he spent 4 years with the McGill Hill Group here in Charlotte, North Carolina, focused on practice transitions and valuation. After leaving the McGill Hill Group, he did 4 years with Affordable Care Incorporated in their DSO operations and roll-up strategy. Diwakar is the banker in the group. He spent the last 15 years of his working career lending money to dentists all over the United States. Most recently, he was Vice President of Sales for East West Bank out of Pasadena. East West was the preeminent lender in the DSO, in the emerging market DSO space of dentistry. And I've got 15 years of distribution experience, having run 3 different operations for Patterson Dental Company. There are 2 facets of our business here at Tusk. The first is an online brokerage website. Think Zillow.com meets dental practice brokerage. Until now, if you wanted to sell your dental practice, you basically had 2 options. You can pay a broker 10% to sell your practice, or you can go it alone and do it in a for sale by owner model, neither of which are a really good value proposition. We leverage modern technology to reduce our costs and pass those savings on to our sellers, and we charge 5% commission to do that. You'll see that our listings feature beautiful professional photographs, informative graphical displays of clinical, financial, and operational successes, and much, much more. We think more engaged buyers hopefully means more offers and potentially a higher selling price for our sellers. It's a wonderful value proposition. You can see more examples of our listings and get further details at tuskbrokerage.com. The second facet of our business, and really what we're going to dive into more tonight, is on the Tusk Partners side of the business. This is focused more squarely on group practices and DSOs, especially those in the emerging market. Think 5 to 25 locations. Your legal structure is critically important, and you need to define it early on in your DSO because it impacts equity and exit considerations as you scale your business. Debt structure is something that not too many emerging market DSOs consider until it's too late. Traditional lenders typically pull back around 4 locations and roughly $2 million in debt exposure. So we help them find alternative sources of capital. You can learn more from our white paper on our website called Debt Financing in the Emerging DSO. We offer buy-side advisory services and sell-side advisory services. Most DSOs will grow through acquisitions, so they frequently come to us and ask them to find targets to acquire. Then we do some quantitative modeling to determine the upside of the acquisition as it fits within their DSO. On the sell-side advisory, this is really more of a go-to-market strategy. It's about a 3 to 6 month process where we prepare the business for sale operationally and financially, trying to show it in its best light. And then we take it to market to find the best partner or acquirer, be it private equity or an enterprise level DSO. To go from small to medium to large takes a little bit of hand holding, and our strategic consulting offering is geared toward that end. Our engagements typically last about 6 to 36 months, and they're designed to help a DSO grow and scale their business to the point of preparing for a sale. You can find more information about these services as well at tusk-partners.com. When it comes to selling a group dental practice, everybody gets seduced by the headlines, but like everything else in life, the devil is truly in the details. Deal structure matters more than multiples. The headlines in today's world are truly unbelievable at times. You hear many huge multiples and many numbers thrown around constantly on the 19th hole of the golf course. I sold my business for $30 million. Other times you hear people say that they got a multiple or 10 times for their business. But have you ever really wondered what that actually means? And have you ever questioned how much money the seller actually got out of the deal? Was it 100%? Was it 80%? Or 50%? And do those details actually matter? Well, they absolutely do. Term sheets and deal terminology are an incredibly boring subject, but the dollars involved can be incredibly substantial. Specifically, the deal structure takes on aspects such as the sale price, that's the headline, EBITDA multiples, cash at close, an earn-out structure, which includes years and dollar amounts along with growth percentage hurdles, equity roll options in the new business, which can cover a certain dollar amount as well as an expected rate of return. And then you deal with things like employment details. That's compensation rate, benefits packages in the new entity, and equity opportunities thereafter. Also employment contracts and non-competes as it relates to time and distance. And finally, there are aspects of the buyer itself. Is it a financial buyer like a private equity company, or a strategic buyer like a larger enterprise level DSO? And what kind of experience, dental industry experience, does a prospective financial buyer actually have? Have they done these deals before? So in an effort to explain some of these details, we're going to walk through a mathematical example. And in this example, we're going to say that we've got a $5 million EBITDA business or group dental practice. And we're going to take offers from two different companies, buyer A and buyer B. Buyer A, in this instance, offers a $50 million price for the group practice at hand, whereas buyer B offers $45 million. For buyer A, that's a 10 times EBITDA multiple, and for buyer B, that's a 9 times EBITDA multiple. In this example, the offer price of buyer B is $5 million less than buyer A. So clearly, buyer A is the better buyer for your business, right? Well, not necessarily. Let's take a look at some of the details. Cash at close is money in your back pocket. That's the bird in the hand example. Buyer A is offering 50% cash at close, which is $25 million, whereas buyer B is offering 70% cash at close, which is a little bit over $31 million. The earn-out structure of buyer A is the additional $25 million in their $50 million offer. So they'll give you $25 million up front, and they'll say you have to earn the other $25 million over some period of time. Buyer B is going to give you more cash at close, and they're going to ask you to earn 20% over some period of time in an earn-out. They're also going to offer you the ability to roll equity. Rolling equity is a concept whereby you defer some of the proceeds of the sale into an equity position in the parent company. And as the buyer grows the overall company, your equity in that company grows alongside it. This isn't always an option at close, but we see it relatively frequently. As also an illustrative example, We never see numbers where it's 50% cash at close, such as the example with buyer A, but it makes our math really easy to follow and it illustrates the example. So just bear with me a bit on that and don't let me lose credibility in the middle. Earnouts take on a longer period of time. Earnouts are the way a buyer structures a transaction so that they don't have to give you 100% cash at close. They also want to make sure that the business they're buying, your business, is going to continue to perform for an indefinite period of time, and they're going to reap the rewards of that. They want you to stay on board and continue to produce at a level that you've been producing historically or higher than that going forward, and they're willing to pay you for it. So in this instance, both companies, buyer A and buyer B, are offering 4-year earnouts. Buyer A has a total cash value per year on the line of $6,250,000. They've deferred more of the higher purchase price into earnouts, whereas buyer B is offering less because they paid you more cash at close. So as we look at this deal as it unfolds, we said that buyer B offers greater cash at close, that's bird in the hand, that's cash in your back pocket and in your bank account. But each subsequent year on the earnout, the dollar values are less because they paid you more up front. So the difference through years 1, 2, 3, and 4 is that as you continue to earn the earnout, assuming you hit the goals for each year, buyer A tends to make up ground on buyer B. As you can see in the first year of the earnout, assuming you hit the number, buyer B is still ahead of buyer A by several million dollars. However, in subsequent years 2, 3, and 4, buyer A takes the lead, and substantially so. At the end of 4 years, the earnout value plus the cash at close is a $9.5 million difference in favor of buyer A. So buyer A is clearly, in this case, the best buyer, right? Well, what about that equity role that I mentioned before? A private equity company especially has a short-term investment horizon. They have limited partners, high net worth investors, who have an expected return on their money. They're in the business of acquiring businesses, operating businesses, improving businesses, and ultimately selling businesses, much like you did to get to this point to sell your business. In the equity role provision, buyer B allowed you to defer 10% of the purchase price into equity in the new company. They expect you to hold it for 4 years, and their expected rate of return is 3 times the number, or 300%. So in this situation, your $44,500,000 that you deferred at the closing table 4 years later, if the overall business performs, is worth a considerable amount more, $13.5 million to be exact. That $13.5 million, when coupled with the earnout structure as well as the cash at close, makes buyer B the more lucrative buyer for you to the tune of about $4 million. That's a considerable amount. So surely buyer B is the best buyer, right? Well, maybe not. Employment details do matter. Chances are you're going to be staying on with the new company going forward, and you'd like to know what the parameters are of the employment contracts and the compensation rates are that you'll be performing under. So let's take a look at employment details between buyer A and buyer B. First and foremost, there's the compensation rate, based on usually a multiple of collections or production. Buyer A is offering 33%, whereas buyer B is offering 28%. But buyer A doesn't cover any of your lab expenses. You pay that out of pocket, whereas buyer B covers all of your lab expenses. There are employment contracts in addition to this, where buyer A has an employment contract of 3 years, buyer B has one for 2 years. If you choose to leave during that time, there's a non-compete in place, and buyer A's non-compete is 3 miles, whereas buyer B's is 10 miles. That means you can't set up a dental practice on your own within 10 miles of the existing locations of the entity that you originally sold. In addition to that, there's benefit structure in most of these companies. Health benefits, retirement benefits, possibly a retirement match, covering malpractice insurance, and certainly covering some amount of continuing ed are all part of the benefits package. And in this situation, you can see how all of those line up between buyer A and buyer B. And finally, there's an opportunity for you to own equity in the business. It could be equity in the PC that you work in, or it could be in the mothership, the DSO, the corporate entity. And occasionally you'll see corporate structures where they allow you to actually earn equity, not have to buy it, but earn it in terms of restricted stock units. In this case, buyer A does offer that. Buyer B does not, but they offered an equity roll provision at the point of close. Finally, beyond just the cash involved and the employment structure, it's worth it to consider details of who these buyers actually are. These are not small details, they matter a lot. What type of buyer is buyer A and buyer B? Well, in this situation, they're both private equity companies, but one of them has healthcare experience and has dental experience. The other does not. So in this situation, not only is it important to consider what the cash at close and the earnout structure is, and possibly an equity roll structure, along with the employment details that you'll be working under for some indefinite period of time, but it's important to know who the buyer is and are they the right partner for you in the second stage of your career. So what's the best deal? That was our original question, wasn't it? And if we answer that, well, the best deal really involves balancing your short-term and long-term expectations. In the short term, it's your personal time frame. How much longer are you going to continue to work? What's the cash at close option? Again, that's the bird in the hand. That's cash in your back pocket and in your bank account. And the employment details under which you're going to be working in the new corporation. That's compensation and benefits. Long term, it's important to know what the buyer characteristics are. Has this, in this example situation, has this private equity company done deals in dental, and have they been successful? Do they have healthcare experience? And what's it going to be like to work for them? The earnout and the value of the earnout over that particular time frame is important. And if you've got questions about the entity that's buying your organization and they structure a considerable amount in an earnout structure, that's worthy of concern. Finally, the equity roll and the increase in enterprise value as it relates to what that business becomes over some period of time long after you sold your original organization. There is a healthy balance between short and long-term expectations, but ultimately a lot of that revolves around what your needs are and expectations. And this is where your advisor should play a critical role to help you set your expectations for not just the process of selling your business, which can be frankly an emotional roller coaster, but what is life going to be like for you after you sell your business. If you'd like to learn more, we'd be happy to share our experience. As a matter of fact, coming up in the month of March, there's an opportunity to learn much more about selling your group dental practice, or DSO. We're going to be hosting a seminar in Houston, Texas. We're going to cover what you need to know and what you should expect during that particular sale process. It's a seminar that's designed for the owner of a 5 to 25 location group dental practice, or DSO, who's interested in selling their business within the next 6 to 24 months. This is a lengthy process, and it's one that most people aren't familiar with because they haven't been through it before. And it's not the same as selling a solo dental practice to a solo buyer. I can assure you of that. If you spend time with us for a couple of days in Houston, you're going to learn a number of things. First and foremost, we're going to talk about valuation. The tiers, the drivers, and the considerations that make up valuation, what your exit options are, and compare and contrast financial versus strategic buyers. We're also going to tap industry experts for accounting and tax considerations. We're going to talk about what a quality of earnings report is. Should you get one before you go to market, or what happens if, in our prior example, a private equity company asks for a Q of E, and what does that mean for you as the seller? We'll also compare asset versus stock sales and the tax implications of both. As you can well imagine, there are many legal aspects of the sale process. We'll lean on industry experts here for all the nitty-gritty details in terms of LOIs, terms and conditions for both buyer and seller, exclusivity provisions, corporate tax structure, and employment contracts going forward. And finally, the people who sell their business encounter a windfall of wealth usually. Some are prepared for it and some aren't. It's a life-changing event. And there are things that you need to know about asset management and allocation, as well as potentially charitable considerations. Finally, we'll unpack that exit strategy. And it is a strategy. If you want to take your business to market, that's not something that comes about haphazardly. There is such a thing that Tusk practices called a marketed sale process. We'll take you through what that is and the steps involved. We'll talk about valuation additions. We'll unpack some more detail about deal structure like we covered here, but also the negotiation aspects of it, covering things like cash at close, earnouts, and equity rolls more specifically. And to put a capper on it, we're going to have somebody share some personal experience. They'll take us through a case study of everything from the analytical process involved to the emotional roller coaster to life after liquidation. It'll be an invaluable dialogue on a panel that will help bring a lot of color to an emotional process and help you set expectations for what might be the future pending sale of your business. Again, the details on this are March 21 through 23 in Houston, Texas. We're going to limit it to 20 groups, which will be about 50 attendees total. We want this to be a very interactive and frankly very intimate environment. If you'd like to see further details, you can look at our website at tusk-partners.com under the Education tab, and there's a flyer involved there. Beyond that, you can feel free to contact either Kevin DeWalker or myself directly on cell phone or email. We'd be happy to fill you in on any details about the seminar itself, services that Tusk offers, or how we can help you in any and every facet of your group dental practice or DSO. We wish you all the best and much success and hope that 2018 is a banner year for everyone.